welcome to our podcast. Today we are talking about WandaVision.
We've now seen the whole series.
So anyways, what did you think of the series?
Overall, I thought it was exceptionally well produced. I think it sets a new bar for television generally, shows, right? Not movies, but shows. It really illustrates what you can do with what is effectively an unlimited budget.
Yeah, definitely.
for a show.
Absolutely. I mean, it's MCU, and Disney spent a lot of money on the production value of the show for sure.
Yeah. They spared no expense. Absolutely. Yeah.
That being said, not every TV show needs to have that huge budget and put that much money into it. But yeah, for an MCU show, especially considering, I think this is basically the first MCU show.
I think so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, if you don't count Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
and
any of the
shows,
network stuff.
Yeah, the Netflix shows, I think, technically are MCU canon, but I don't know if they count as MCU shows or not. But yeah, this is the first Disney MCU show, and they spent a lot of money on the production value for sure. So, definitely that's a positive. For me, I felt in the beginning, the first episode especially was really rough for me. I grew up watching I Love Lucy and those shows, and
Dick Van Dyke and
I didn't watch that. Yeah, I didn't watch Dick Van Dyke, but I grew up watching I Love Lucy, so I could tell what they were going for. It really felt awkward to me. It felt like the actors felt awkward, like they didn't find their groove to me until the second episode. But there were moments of the first episode where, for example, they're all having dinner, and all of a sudden Wanda kind of starts like freaking out a little bit, and the guy starts choking, and his wife's like, "Ha ha ha ha, stop it, ha ha ha," and it's like really weird, and I love that. Like that type of stuff I loved. But the comedy and the laugh track and all that, it just kind of felt like awkward in a bad way to me.
I think they really captured a lot of what you see in those older shows.
Sure, absolutely.
But I know what you mean. They were doing an homage, right? Homage, not a pastiche, right? Not, it wasn't as funny as some of the shows. But I get where they're going, and that's fine. I loved the Twin Peaksiness, the David Lynch-ness of the first few episodes, where everything was sunny and happy, and then it wasn't, and by contrast, those moments were uncomfortable and weird.
Uncomfortable
and
in a good way.
I thought that was great.
Yeah. For me, like I said, the first episode felt really, really rough. The second episode, it felt like they found their groove a lot better. They had that whole magic episode or magic scene.
Now in color.
All that stuff going on. It really felt like, okay, it feels like the actors have settled into it a little bit. They're a little bit more comfortable. And I really enjoyed the second episode a lot more. But overall, as they kept doing, as they progressed through the from decade to decade, into the Brady Bunch themes and then into the Office themes. Like for me, as a huge fan of The Office, watching them do an homage to The Office was fun. However, that said, like they didn't really seem to get it. like a lot of the jokes that she made while doing the Office references just didn't fly for me. Like they
Office references?
Yeah, I don't know.
I noticed there was the Modern Family episode, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I missed the Office references. I haven't really watched.
I believe it was the same episode.
So
I believe it was the same episode where she would like look into the camera and do like a Jim smirk thing. And I think it was,
I will tell you right now that is a Modern Family takeoff episode. I'm not sure that it was really a reference to The Office generally. However, I don't know. Maybe maybe they tried it and it didn't work. But like all of the all the references that I noticed in that particular episode were all pretty much, that was the one after Malcolm in the Middle, right? The Malcolm in the Middle episode.
I think it was the same episode, or maybe it was the one after. I don't remember. I don't.
Yeah, they did the Malcolm in the Middle, which was the kids when they were young, and then the following one was Modern Family, where it focused mostly on Wanda as like the matriarch of the family, and then they went full MCU.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, I don't think any episode was dedicated to just one show. Like the first episode was kind of Dick Van Dyke
a pastiche
and I
of the
Love
50s,
Lucy. Yeah. It was a mix.
Yeah, my Three Sons,
Right.
I Love Lucy. I got that. You're right. It was a mix-up of
and then they morphed into like Brady Bunch and I Love Jeannie and so on and so forth. And so each decade, I think they try to hit on different shows. And so I got the Malcolm in the reference because I watched some of that. But yeah, like I said, to me, I get what they were going for. I love the idea. I definitely commend them for trying something different out of the box. Not enough people are doing that. I just felt that the execution didn't. It wasn't flawless to me. To me, I as a huge fan of the TV show Legion, I found myself wanting to see them go more in that direction with it, and that strange, weird feeling you felt watching Legion. I wanted to have that, and I just didn't. You know what I mean?
I haven't seen Legion, so I can't speak to that. I can speak to my feeling of I don't think they dove in as hard or deep, so to speak, into each of the homage episodes, and I don't think that they had enough time to do that with only 9 episodes allowed, essentially, or planned, right? I would have loved to have seen a more fully committed, like deep dive into the genres, but I'm not sure that was really what they were going for. They did the homage, they did the the show per decade or whatever it was, and then they moved on.
And then episode,
which was great.
Episode 4, the first 3 episodes were pretty much pure homage episodes. Then episode 4 they jumped into MCU, like pretty much straight up MCU was the 4th episode.
Well, that was the Modern Family episode, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, and the outside world finally came crashing in a little bit.
Well, no, the 4th episode was like almost completely outside. Like they spent almost the entire episode outside the world.
Okay, was that it? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. Then they must have broken up because it was like it was the 50s episode, it was the Brady Bunch episode, it was the Malcolm in the Middle episode, and then the Modern Family episode were like the four primary homage episodes. And I think you're right. Maybe they did break up the Brady Bunch. Or I'm sorry, not the Brady Bunch. The Malcolm in the Middle episode and the Modern Family episode. Anyway, you know what? I don't think it matters all that much.
It doesn't really matter, yeah. But my point is, so the first 3 episodes, especially like I read a lot on social media and stuff. Like a lot of people weren't really getting it, especially younger people. I'm sure definitely probably weren't getting it. But once they jumped into the 4th episode and the MCU episode, which I think was needed, it definitely for me felt like a turning point for the show. Because I was already into it and it was weird, but a lot of the weirdness was good. And I was like wondering where this is going, but the 4th episode
one
for me felt
one
like,
of my favorite parts about that weirdness was in the first episode when they get that radio signal, right? And and it's like, Wanda, are you doing this? Are you trapped? Or whatever. And and then and it just sort of it all screeches to a halt and gets really weird for a minute.
Right.
Those were some of my favorite parts of the earlier episodes, where they've committed to this, this genre or this, this type of television, and then it just fully brings you out,
Right.
To look at it from the outside for just a minute, and then drops you right back in, and you're just like, wow, that's fucking weird.
Right.
But by the fourth episode, they'd gotten into the FBI dude. I can't remember his name. I wish I could. But the
Woo.
Asian actor, Agent Woo, and then Kat Dennings and her character.
Woo. Yeah.
Jimmy Woo. That's it. And then Monica. Was it Monica?
Rambeau. Yeah.
Yeah, Monica Rambeau. Yeah. I like her a lot.
I think she's like the new Captain Marvel in the comic books. I think
you are correct.
Yeah.
And she's awesome. Like,
she did great.
She's great the entire show.
Absolutely. And she was great. Like, because I didn't really, because when she first showed up, in the
movies, right?
In the TV show when she first showed up in Wanda's world, and it was like an homage. Like, I recognized her and I realized who she was, but I didn't really understand her part. You know what I mean? And she played that, but she played that so well. And then when she got sucked out of it, and you learned her backstory and everything that was going on and everything, yeah, she was great. She was an awesome addition to the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Kat was cool. I was fun to see her. Yeah. For me, I'm a huge X-Men fan, as you know.
Absolutely.
And I've read or House of M, and I've read Avengers Assembled, and so
I was waiting for any mention at any point in any episode of the word mutants.
I know.
I wanted so badly for that to come in at any point.
Same.
I was just waiting. But when they finally kicked off the last episode, and she's like, at full power, I'm just like, okay, that's where they're taking it. I think, but let's get back to toward the middle of the season. I don't want to skip ahead. So.
Well, what I was going to say is that it's basically the same thing. Is that I went into this kind of expecting it to be a sort of version of the House of M. Obviously, not the exact same thing, because in House of M, I mean, she's the one who kills Vision in Avengers Assembled. And I haven't read the whole story. I don't know everything about Mephisto and all. I haven't read all the stuff with Agatha Harkness, so that was a new character for me. I'd never read that one in the comics.
That's the one that confused me the most initially, and I'm on board for the ride on that one. They can change what they need to change for storyline, and MCU is not the comics,
right?
But Agatha Harkness and the character background and her relationship with Wanda Maximoff was
she was like
seriously. Yeah, she trained Wanda in the comics. Like she's responsible for why Wanda is the Scarlet Witch, right? In a different way, and completely, than in WandaVision. I mean, she's I guess now sort of responsible for why Wanda is now the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, from what I've read from what I've read in the comics, which I haven't read the comics myself, but from what I understand, Agatha Harkness and Doctor Strange both train Wanda in the dark arts and spellcasting and everything.
Oh yeah,
correct?
You're right. Doctor Strange does have a role to play, but Agatha Harkness was the primary mentor, I guess, sort of. I mean, she's always walked the line as far as good guy, bad guy, right? But she's never been an out-and-out bad guy in the Marvel Universe. But, she is here, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's not a major character in the comics,
yeah, I mean, as opposed to any other hero, book. You're right, yeah.
She doesn't have her own comic book, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let me
she does feature heavily in a lot of storylines, along with the Scarlet Witch. But you're right, yeah. Go on.
But what I was going to say was, not having read her, and so I don't have any expectations of her. I thought that the Agatha Harkness in WandaVision was freaking awesome. She was great from the beginning to the end, and I hope we see more of her in the MCU. I hope she revises her roles in the future movies. You know, maybe she can come back in the next Avengers movie as a villain or something.
I love Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, I do too, and she was fantastic in WandaVision.
I love Deborah Jo Rupp, man. I just love her so much, and she was in the first episode, primarily in the first episode, as the wife of she was Mrs. Hart, you know.
Yes.
And she has been in the '70s show and a bunch of other stuff.
Yes.
I love her.
I do too. And
she, I think, was criminally underused in this.
I agree.
Series.
I was expecting her to turn out to be behind all of this. When I saw her, I was like, "Oh, she's the villain. I think she's going to be the one who's secretly behind all of this." Yeah.
But you can't argue with Catherine Hahn, so yeah.
I can't. But I was expecting her to the reveal to be her at the end. So anyways, to go back to what I was saying earlier is that as a huge X-Men fan, and that's what I was hoping this series was going to be, was by the end of it we were going to have some news of, okay, this is where we're going, this is how we're bringing the mutants in. I was maybe even hoping potentially to see Xavier or something at the in the finale, and we didn't get any of that.
Well, yeah, I mean with the introduction of Evan Peters when he comes in,
right,
as Pietro, I'm just like, dude, what?
Right.
What?
I was like, dude, they're doing the multiverse thing. They brought in Peter from another multiverse dimension.
That's right, yeah.
And then of course it turned out to just be some guy named
Ralph Boner.
Ralph Boner, right, yeah.
Yeah. So that I think will go deeper. There was an after credits sequence with him, right? Oh yeah, I'm Ralph Boner or whatever, right?
I don't know.
That was the first one.
I don't know if there was an after credit sequence, but
or was that part of the main the main
I think it was
show?
part of the regular episode. But
okay, all right.
I've read something online that said that maybe they were just kind of testing the waters with that to see how it went, and if people responded well enough, maybe they will use that as a way to bring him in from
the internet went mad. It lost its fucking shit when that happened.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say that overall that went over well.
Because I'm not a fan of any of the previous X-Men movies. Any of them. I think, as a huge fan of the comics, I think those movies are all garbage. That said,
I liked Logan. It was good.
Even Logan. I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. Hugh Jackman played a great character, but he didn't play a great Logan, in my opinion.
I think that, well, I mean, this is not a Logan podcast. I think that particular movie, as a send off, to that section of the X-Men story, I sort of consider it like, a Marvel What If, right? But that movie was a beautiful movie, great movie.
Yeah,
and really,
for me,
I thought it was great. But anyway.
For me, as an X-Men fan, I just didn't like it. Why do they have to murder off all of the mutants on the planet? I don't understand. Why is every frickin' X-Men story that has ever been turned into a movie all about jerking Logan off? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Anyways.
Well.
But back to...
Wolverine is the most popular X-Men character of all time and continues to be, a cultural icon. So I understand. I mean, as the last thing I'll say about the Logan movie, the reason that it did what it did and was so specifically down and sort of depressing in a lot of spaces was because they were kind of they were saying goodbye to that section of story, right? They were like, okay, this is the end of this.
Sure,
and
I
so
get it. I
whatever.
understand.
But whatever. Again, not a Logan podcast. This is about WandaVision. But
yeah,
anyway.
But the point is that I understand that Logan is a popular X-Men character, but Gambit is super popular. Professor X is super popular. Cyclops is super popular, and look what they did to him in the movies. They made him freaking horrible. Psylocke is there's tons and tons of... The X-Men are popular because there's tons of them, and they are all amazing characters. Logan is one of the most popular ones, sure, but... that doesn't mean that they have to frickin' murder off all of the other X-Men just to frickin' jerk him off in a movie. I don't get it.
Sure.
Anyways, back to the WandaVision podcast. I don't even remember what I was saying.
I was very happy at the addition of Evan Peters as Pietro.
That's what my point was.
And I was hoping very much to see a mutants pull in,
Same.
an X-Men pull in to sort of join the universes, since Disney now owns Fox.
And that's what I was going to say was, of all the X-Men movies that we've had, Quicksilver and that casting was easily the best thing about all of it. Like, he was amazing as Quicksilver.
That was good, yeah.
Yeah, he was so good. So yeah, to see him in WandaVision was super fun. And then it was a little bit of a letdown the way they decided to make it fit and make sense. But it made sense, at least, so I can't fault them for that. And then we finally get to the end of the show, which, like I said, for me, I was building up expectations as the show went. I had all these hopes that they were going to pull out the big guns and show us what was coming, what to expect in the future of the MCU. Yep. We didn't really get that. The last episode for me was really just sad. Like, I mean, it was sad in a good way, but like I was like the whole episode, I was like, oh man, this is really, really heartbreaking. Like,
right, because in order to leave, Wandaville or whatever, Westview, the people that she created as her family, because they were wholesale creations, they weren't, people modified to be her family, but all of those people would have to die. They would have to cease to exist, and
right.
There was no getting around it. No,
I mean, how many people,
the kids and all that kind of stuff. That sucked.
How many people did she take hostage of, basically, to create
yep.
her own little fantasy world? And obviously, you empathize with those people because,
yeah,
that
super
sucks.
You get that idea, fairly early on, around the midpoint of the show, and you realize, that these people are not happy to be there. They're not asleep.
Well,
They're
even
not.
In the first episode, you get hints at it. You're like, oh, something's not right with what's going on here.
Sure, but yeah, it sort of like, as you said, hits its stride. A few episodes in, where you're like, oh, these people are all essentially being, psychically tortured,
right?
And they're, and especially the reveal toward the end, where like, won't you let my child out of her room, or whatever,
right.
Because of course you don't see any kids, other than the Halloween episode or whatever it is,
right?
And yeah, it's tragic, it's terrible. And what happened to Wanda is bad, and it's it's upsetting how she lost Vision and all that stuff, but what she's doing to these people is terrifying.
Yes, yeah, it's terrifying and terrible. And yeah, obviously, she lost her brother, she lost her parents when she was young. I mean, her whole backstory is tragic and terrible, but
her whole backstory should be the backstory of a villain, but it's not.
Right. Somehow, basically, thanks to like the Avengers and Vision specifically, she's not a bad guy. Not yet, anyways.
Right, we'll see how it goes as time goes on. They may turn her. Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, they in the comics they do a really good job of towing the line of almost turning her into a villain many times, but then she comes back, she bounces back, and that's what they seem to be doing with her in the MCU, and they're doing a really good job.
Her whole that's true. She has towed the line quite a bit, come really near the edge of being a villain, or I mean, she was introduced outright as
a villain,
but
as a terrorist.
But no. Speaking of the comics, though, right, as opposed to specifically WandaVision, but the Scarlet Witch within the comics, my favorite storyline with the Scarlet Witch by far, bar none, is House of M. Right. I love that shit. Like, that is my jam. That No More Mutants line just stinks it for me. Right. I love it. I love it. And so when she began, or when the show sort of showed her power growing, right, and her being able to affect reality, right, as opposed to just throwing some balls of red energy around,
right,
like she did mostly in in the movies, and fly around, I guess, in the movies too. But when she was able to, like just change reality around her, and then they called her effect the Hex. I'm just like, yes, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for the fucking Scarlet Witch the entire time I've seen her in any Marvel property, right? MCU property is, growing beyond this chick with red hair who throws around, energy balls.
Right.
And they really came through with it. The the Halloween episode where she wears the old Scarlet Witch costume and Vision wears the old Vision costume, I thought was a real hoot. I liked that a lot. And then at the end,
I enjoyed that
when she had the sparkly Scarlet Witch headdress on, prior to actually just fully embodying a revised Scarlet Witch costume at the very end, was great. Like every part of that, just hit on all of the nostalgia buttons that I've got, and all of the things that I enjoyed growing up reading the comics, and I've always liked the Scarlet Witch. I've always liked Vision. I thought he was great. So I await further interaction or whatever with him, from the rest of the MCU.
I'm really curious to see where they're taking Vision. So I'll be honest with you. I was never a big Avengers fan growing up. I was always more like Spider-Man, X-Men.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man,
X-Men, and Batman, and Green Lantern. Like those were my comics, and they're still my comics.
One of my favorite comics of all time, talking about Green Lantern, is the Green Lantern versus Moon Knight issue. And Hal Jordan turns out to be the Spectre. It's super good. It's great, man. Anyway,
I've not read
so
that,
no, I'm sorry, not Moon Knight. It's Hal Jordan versus Green Knight versus Green Lantern versus the Spectre. Anyway, okay, so I have enjoyed a number of comics, outside of those properties. I do like those ones as well. I was always a big X-Men fan. Avengers has gone on and off for me. Fantastic Four, was a brief interlude.
That's another one I've never really cared about. Fantastic Four.
I know. I'm aware.
Fantastic Four and Avengers I've just never really been able to get into. Of course, I know who Scarlet Witch is. I really wasn't familiar with Vision until the movies.
Right.
And so... But that being said, they've done a great job, and I mean, Paul Bettany is an amazing actor.
Paul Bettany makes that role fucking awesome. There's nobody else that I would want in that role other than that dude.
I've been a fan of that guy's ever since First Night. Like he's great. He's great as Vision, and seeing that final battle between the two Visions and them, like trying to like logic it out and figure out. Am I the real Vision? Are you the real Vision?
It was great.
Real?
That was super.
Yeah, that whole battle and discussion was awesome. And seeing the new Vision like fly out of there, they've got more in store for him, and I think that's
absolutely.
Awesome.
I loved the idea that essentially the Wanda created Vision, which is all of essentially. Okay, so it was a weird mention. When just before the Vision was destroyed by Wanda, taking down her hex, and he asked her kind of, "What am I?" And then she says, "Well, you're a dream, you're my sadness, but mostly you're my love. You are, a little shard of the yellow fucking Infinity Stone, the Mind Stone.
Yeah, you're like, what's left of the Infinity Stone that's inside me? Yeah.
Right. And so I was real interested by that. But what that meant to me
very curious
was,
line.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but what that meant to me, or at least what I got from that, was it sort of informed the end of the earlier fight between the two Visions, where the WandaVision, right, touches the forehead of the resurrected Vision, and then essentially, I feel like he just unlocked or restored all of the memories, right? Based on the idea that the Mind Stone, whatever the shard of the Mind Stone that is in Wanda, inside Wanda, really carried all of that inside of it, all the Vision's memories and experiences and feelings and yada 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 yada, and then all of that was transferred, not really transferred, but more, just allowed into, the resurrected body of the Vision, right? And then he's like, okay, I am, and his last line, I am the Vision, and then he leaves. Really, like, that really tells me that basically they've restored the Vision to, or Vision, whatever you want to call it, to, his sort of previous glory, I guess you could say, but it restored him into Vision, and I'm very excited about that. I was wondering how they were going to get Vision back into the MCU, right? How, because nobody ever dies in comics, but in that case, he was pretty fucking dead.
Right, yeah.
But I love that they were able to to kind of rebuild him. They had the technology. But Wanda was able to give him his soul back.
Right. But the thing is,
that's what I got out of that.
I mean, that's what I got out of it too. Is that you have this new Vision who's been built with new directives and all that, new programming, new body. He doesn't have the Infinity Stone in his head anymore.
Right.
And then so then his the WandaVision version of Vision unlocks his memories, and so now
you can just call him the WandaVision.
Yeah, and so now he's got his soul back, as you say. But so what I think is, obviously he didn't run straight to Vision or run straight to Wanda and be like, "Hey, I love you. Let's run out of here and live the rest of our lives together." So where did he go? Obviously, he's got a lot of.
I think he's shit to work out, right?
Yeah, shit to work out. A lot to figure out.
I knew exactly what you were going to say, and I'm like, you're right. That's exactly what I want to say. He's got shit to work out.
Yeah.
And then and I imagine that Wanda will find him, or he will find Wanda. And then they will go back to being Wanda and Vision, hopefully, because I love that idea, like the whole love story between them and everything that's happened, and those two characters fit together really well. The Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are great together. They work.
They really do. But I mean, I wonder, like, are they going to come back together, or maybe Vision is going to have an issue with what Wanda did, and maybe he won't be able to come back to her, or I don't know. I mean, like, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, I'm just very curious about what's going to happen with that. And then, like you said, that shard of the Infinity Stone that Wanda has inside of her. Like, what does that mean exactly? Is that
right? Yeah.
Like, what is
that? That was very intriguing.
And here's the thing. I mean, obviously, Wanda is one of the most powerful characters in the comic books.
Absolutely.
What she was able to accomplish with M-Day. And I'm going to admit, M-Day is not my favorite comic. I'm not a huge fan of that. When I read it, I was like, oh, this is not that great. But some very important things happened in it.
I will say, I didn't read. All right, I admit I didn't read the whole thing, but I read some of the highlight issues. There, and they really spoke to me. So I didn't really get into the nuts and bolts, but the idea of that storyline really speaks to me, and I like it a lot. But anyway, go ahead.
But what I've liked is that Wanda has always been one of the more powerful characters in the MCU. And they even finally said it in WandaVision that she could have beaten Thanos on her own.
Oh yeah,
which I love.
That was a good one. Yeah.
And now she's unlocked the powers of the Scarlet Witch, so she's even stronger than she's ever been. So obviously she's way more powerful than she was. She's got this shard of the stone somewhere in her. So what does that mean? She's even more powerful than we thought she was. So I'm just really excited to see where this is all going to go. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You've got the mutants coming in. You've got Fantastic Four coming in. You've got the new Avengers. Theoretically, you might have the West Coast Avengers coming in.
I mean, they could throw a lot of spaghetti at that wall.
Yeah, Doctor Doom, Galactus. Like, where is this all headed? You know what I mean? I don't know. I things are looking like.
Well, they already handled quote Galactus, in some of the earlier Fantastic Four movies. I'm not sure how much they're going to bring forward from those previous Fox-based, properties, into the MCU, right?
Hopefully none of it, because
I didn't like their version of Galactus. I thought it was, it was a version
Doom,
from the comics, but it was terrible.
The Doctor Doom that they had in the first Fantastic Four movie wasn't that great either.
He was okay. He was fine, but he wasn't Doom.
He wasn't Doom, yeah.
Yeah. I await a lot of what they're going to do with the I mean, comic books have a 70-year history of stories to pull from. So essentially, even though everybody says, well, like it is startling the amount of content that they have produced, Marvel Studios and the MCU, right? In comparison to any other property previously managed by any studio in movies or television, like there is more stuff that has come out of of comics, and into movies and series than I ever expected than has ever been done previously, and they're still going. I mean, these.
They're just getting started.
They have a right, exactly. It seems like they're just getting started, and a lot of it just keeps getting better and better. I mean, to be honest with you, I watched Avengers Endgame, and was very affected by it. I thought it was a great movie. Even like they did too much with one movie, and it was 3 hours long. But I still loved it. I thought it was great. So it's they've proven that they can handle producing these epics again and again.
For sure.
And and they've also pretty much proven, I think with WandaVision in particular, but with some of the other movies like Black Panther and stuff, that they can handle like the smaller, more intricate, more specific movies or stories.
Well, we had
as well.
Starting with Iron Man 1 and going to Avengers Endgame, we had 10 years or however many years of like super epic movies. And then you had also the little movies like Ant-Man and stuff, which felt like
I liked those.
Yeah, little crime action movies, whatever.
They're funny.
But WandaVision is the first thing where they are attempting to do something different, and I love that. Like, I love that they're finally going, we have to figure out new ways to provide these stories. And I think that this is a great jumping off point, a great first start, a great start to change things up, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm really, as a fan of the X-Men, I'm worried. For example, I think that the way that they've treated Spider-Man in the movies has not been that great. Spider-Man Homecoming was pretty terrible.
Homecoming and Far From Home. Okay, so I'll give you my quick synopsis of my feelings about those. They were way better than I expected them to be, but they weren't great movies, right? Like I literally went into those, like I didn't even bother watching them during my rerun of the MCU movies. Like I missed a few on the way through because of the pandemic, because of kids, didn't go see a bunch of them. So like I kind of now that I've got Disney Plus, I watched kind of everything. Most of them,
Yeah, I did the same thing.
And had skipped the Spider-Man movies almost entirely until somebody said, "Hey, Far From Home is post Endgame."
Right.
And so I was interested in that. Okay, I'll watch that. And then so I decided to watch Far From Home as well.
Far From Home was fine. It was okay.
I just didn't expect anything of those movies, and so when I saw them, I'm like, hey, they're not bad. The Far From Home, okay, Mysterio is an interesting villain. I don't really consider him a flagship villain. I guess maybe he is for Spider-Man. But I'm like, oh man, I think it's the costume that gets me, right? It's the the foggy head. Glass. Anyway, whatever. I don't know what it is about it.
I don't know. But he wasn't the problem with it for me. The problem with it for me was that Peter Parker is a freaking brilliant engineer. He's a genius. And in the movies, the Peter Parker is such a he's so reliant on Tony Stark that he can't do anything himself. He can't create his own suit. He just can't do anything. And that's not Peter Parker from the comic books, man. Peter Parker is a badass in the comic books, and he's just
okay. He's a badass nerd. You're right, and that does not really translate to the movies
at all.
I know that as far as just beginning, right? I was looking at the list of television series for based in the MCU, right? You've got like Agents of Shield, previous stuff that has come out, like Agents of Shield, the Netflix series Daredevil, Luke Cage, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I guess there was like a Runaways series.
Oh yeah,
which is
I
on
watched the first
Hulu,
season of that.
and Cloak and Dagger, which I'm really not aware of.
I watched the first 2 episodes of that.
Yeah, there's a Hellstrom series as well, which I'm not.
I believe
I don't know what that's
Disney
based
owns
on.
Hulu, correct?
Do they? I don't know. I can't remember. Somebody bought Hulu, but it might have been Disney. I don't know. But
I've heard that.
I know,
but I wasn't aware. I wasn't 100% sure if Disney actually owned Hulu or what was going on with that. But yeah, I do remember watching The Runaways, and I remember watching Cloak and Dagger on Hulu, and knowing that they were quote unquote MCU canon, just like Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones were quote unquote MCU canon.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and that's another thing I was hoping, again, getting my hopes up for. I was hearing rumors that the Matt Murdock might appear on the last episode of WandaVision as a lawyer, and I was like, oh, that would be so amazing, and because I freaking love the Netflix MCU shows. They're so good, especially Jessica Jones, but all of them are so good, and I'm really hoping we get to see more of that. I would love to see a Jessica Jones MCU movie. I would love to see the Defenders show up in the MCU,
Sure.
I'm hoping we have more of that. So,
well, as far as a television series, right? We were talking about, this is just the beginning. WandaVision, for instance. I know that WandaVision has been completed. They're going to do a series called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right, which actually looks good. I was not excited about that at all. Until I started watching WandaVision, and then I saw a commercial for it, and I was like,
right,
I might actually watch that.
Yeah, that one apparently is done and will release in March of this year, which rather in about 10 or 12 days from the taping of this podcast.
Right.
And then they're going to do a Loki series.
I like
Loki.
He's good.
Which apparently will release sometime in June. There's a What If series.
That one I can't wait for.
I have no idea what they will do with that. There are so many possibilities because it's fucking what if.
I think it's animated too.
That I'm not aware of. But that one apparently is set for release, mid this year. Miss Marvel is coming as a television series as well.
And
late
that's
this year.
One that I'm looking forward to. I was not familiar with that character at all
until really?
I played Marvel's The Avengers.
Rogue.
And it was a great game.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was not a great game. It was a decent game, but she was awesome in it. She was great in it. Really got me hyped for that one.
My introduction to Miss Marvel was when Rogue took her powers. That
Oh.
was like that was my first introduction to Miss Marvel, was when Rogue killed her and took her powers and part of her personality, and and that was like during 80s and 90s X-Men. But that she has since returned, of course. But they're going to do a Hawkeye movie, or I'm sorry, a Hawkeye TV show late this year, and then they're going to go into Moon Knight. Which I like the idea of that. I like Moon Knight. She-Hulk, which is next year.
My brother was a huge Moon Knight fan, and I read some of his Moon Knight issues here and there when I was a kid. And I just remember I always thought he was one of the coolest looking comic characters ever, but I just I never got super into him. Like I said, he was more my brother's era.
Yeah. He fell off pretty hard as far as popularity goes. And stories, for that matter, in the 90s. Like they were, from what I remember, the comics were less inspiring at that point. There's a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special that they're going to do on television, and then after that, a Secret Invasion, which I think has something to do with Secret Wars. From the previous.
I haven't read Secret Wars yet.
Oh yeah,
I actually
have. It's been a while, right?
Yeah, I have. I've been ordered. I just read the first. I just read the first Secret War. Secret Invasion is the one I haven't read yet. Yeah, I literally just read Secret Wars for the first time,
Yeah.
like a couple months ago. I've like been ordering a lot of that stuff on Amazon and working my way through it.
And then eventually they're going to work their way through Armor Wars, which I think is a Iron Man reference kind of thing, right?
It is, yeah. It's
and then okay, so Death of Tony Stark and War Machine's going to be in and all that kind of stuff.
War Machine,
and then finally
it has something to do with like Stark Industries did something somewhere, and like that's where you get the characters out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a Wakanda series coming up. After that, which could be really good.
Could be really good, yeah.
But Secret Invasion, I'm interested in because I am interested in the Skrulls section of storyline, and so
yeah, I don't know. That's what I was going to say. Is I don't really know a ton about the Skrulls. I don't really know about, like I said, I haven't read the Secret Invasion books. I'm working on it. My biggest problem with the Black Panther movie was, and the Avengers, movies, is that when you go to Wakanda, like, to me the different tribes don't. I don't know. Like, I want to know more. Like, I want to know more from them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, maybe we'll be able to get some more info, and it'll dive deeper, in the series.
Yeah, to show the politics and like the personalities of each tribe and so on and so forth. Yeah, I'd really like to dig deeper into that.
I'm sure there's a lot to mine in there. So.
I'm sure, yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to the Ms. Marvel section of series. I think I think most of these are limited series, so they're not open-ended. Just like season after season kind of things. And I think that's the same with Falcon the Winter Soldier, and then Loki.
I remember what I was going to
say. Loki's interesting, but
I like Loki. I'm not a huge fan
I've liked
of
most
Loki.
of what I've seen of him on screen. Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of Loki, but I have high hopes that he can make a show entertaining. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to expect.
What's
the
his
Thor
name?
movies
Tom
for
Hiddleston,
me,
right? Yeah.
The Thor movies for me, they're just whatever. They're fine. But
I liked the third one real good. I thought that was great.
Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Ragnarok is like one of the best of all the MCU movies. It's amazing. Like,
yeah. So
it's
okay. Well, so you like them fine, except that one of them is the best MCU movie ever made.
But I mean, like, that had the Hulk in it and everything. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the Thor movies that were just Thor and his whole backstory.
Sure.
I don't know. I think that they're probably better than the Captain America movies. But the Captain America movies are just kind of meh,
I thought so too. A lot of people really, really liked those. I was not as huge of a fan as I felt everybody else was for those.
I mean, they weren't bad. They were just kind of middle of the road for me. The Thor movies, the Captain America movies, Ant-Man and the Wasp, they were all just kind of like, okay, whatever.
I really like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I thought were funny and they were good.
They really
they sort of acted a little bit as a palate cleanser for me while I was going through the MCU movies.
They really reminded me of 90s, like a 90s action movie, like a 90s crime action movie. They weren't good. I mean, they weren't like very good. They were good, but they weren't like very good. You know what I mean? They were good movies. They weren't very good movies.
Oh, that's cool. Apparently in the What If series, they're going to bring in Uatu, the Watcher, as he narrates the series.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember reading that.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah. I like the Watcher. I like the idea of the Watcher.
Yeah, he's cool.
and that to me, like, what that says is all of the celestial stuff, kind of comes in, right? Because, like, if you're going to bring in the Watcher, maybe you're going to bring in, like, eternity and some of the other, like, sort of cosmic entities, that exist in the Marvel comic universe that you don't see in, like, the Living Tribunal and shit like that, that you don't see in
but yeah, We'll have to get together again soon for our Magicians podcast, which I'm almost done with, by the way.
I hope so, because I'm starting to feel the need to rewatch it.
Sorry, yeah.
That can't happen.
yeah, don't do that. Unless you can watch it all within like a week or two, because
No, I got work, man.
yeah.
But no, yeah, I look forward to it. It's a great show, and I look forward to bouncing.
I agree.
ideas off
It is a great show. So okay, so we'll get together for that soon. So
where are you at anyway?
I am on. I just started season 5, the first episode.
Okay, all right.
So, but I've watched all
well,
4
at
seasons.
least we're current then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, man. Well, you have a wonderful rest of the day, and
You
I
too.
will talk at you very soon.
Absolutely. And thanks everyone for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Even if you didn't want to. Bye.
Especially if you didn't want to.